the punchline of the joke that you save until that last moment to make the rest of the delivery work.
Like I had the perfect thing, and then my brain went, "I fucking know," because I consider myself a queen, so I'm using the royal we.
There is a lot of promise for what this could give back to a writing community that's given me so much. Which I like being the fifth. I want to be the first.
Activate your energy.
Welcome to the Activated Authors Podcast, a show where we distill the core principles of what it takes to become a happy, healthy, and productive author, no matter what stage of the journey you're at. I'm your host, Daniel Willcocks. I'm an international best-selling author, as well as an author coach, speaker, and creative entrepreneur. But most importantly, I'm a lifelong student of all things productivity, psychology, and human behavior. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. Without further ado, let's dive in. What is up, activators, and welcome back to another episode of the Activated Authors Podcast. My name is Daniel Willcocks, and here with me every week is the wonderful...
I just did a burp as I went to say my name.
Perfect timing.
I've been chugging Monster. I did a little burp.
You chugging Monster.
Frost.
Sup, Sam? How is it going?
Shit, mate. How's it going?
I mean, do you want to dive more deeply into that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's fine, actually. Like, I'm having a tears and my anxiety is trying to, like, pull me under. Little man's got COVID, so that means, or medium man, so that means he is...
I love medium man.
Well, because he's not a little man anymore.
Yeah, makes sense.
He's not little anymore. Yeah, he tested positive for COVID on Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. So he's home until at least Monday. I'm pretty sure that he will go back on Monday. But yeah, so I have also now feel like shit.
No vid. No vid. Is the hope.
I mean, whatever, like I've got summits. And yeah, just mentally, I'm struggling pretty hard today.
Well, they've had a pretty strong week this week.
Yeah, I've been doing all right. Like I think I've done that thing where, and you'll know this, being like a single parent and stuff, and is that it's like when shit goes crazy, it's like if you don't step up, everything implodes. And so you step up, but you step too far up, and you just become like, and then you realize that the entire time you were running at a wall, and then you realize that like your brain is bleeding out and you've got concussion.
Yeah, running at a wall. For people watching on the YouTube, I made an A with my fingers and ran against a crossbar.
Yeah.
There you go. So
it's been a week, but yeah, it's been good in the sense of I have got quite a lot done. How about you, Sir Willcocks, the 5th of Arrington?
I'll take it. I like being the 5th. I want to be the first. I'm doing all right.
Maybe ancestors.
So I think I'm trying to remember the context of, because obviously it's a bit unusual that we're back on the podcast feed with this episode. We haven't got a guest today. We'll explain what's going on very, very shortly. But yeah, I am coming to grips with the lifestyle that now comes from being fully creatively independent, which is très exciting, but also très terrifying.
Yes,
because
quick fun time.
Yeah, I've always been one of those people. I will make the jump probably before I should, and I'm not I'm not averse to risk. And so I will admit I put myself in a position in which I'm okay for a few months, but it is a calculated risk that in those few months I need to step up and I need to do things to, make the money come in and to replace other income that I've otherwise foregone.
Yeah.
And it's a weird experience because it's like the weight of ghostwriting has been lifted off my shoulders. I mean, for context, for people who might be new to the podcast or don't get the full scale of things, my productive outlet tended to be around 4,000 words a day to stay on target to hit my goals. There was a bit of leniency in there, but if you have one day sick, it turns into 3, and then you're suddenly behind by like 8,000 words. So having that pressure taken off has been lush. And I took a few weeks off. I recharged myself. I then got super stressed in the final few days of that break. Came back and have been kind of going with it. And like, it's one of those things, like, I don't believe in fate. I don't believe in destiny, but I do believe in things aligning. And I'm currently working on quite a few very exciting projects, of which I can't say much on any of them yet, really. Some more secret than others, but it is now in a position in which a few things have aligned. And I'll kind of go into what will become one of our recurring segments as I further explain what's going on, which is the What's Going On segment. And what's going on is
cryptically named.
What's
going on segment?
The Thing. I'm working on the thing. No, I am working on a course, is all I can say at this point. I have had the opportunity to make that happen. It's something that I very much believe in and I'm excited to be a part of. And I can't say much more than that, but that is taking a big chunk of my time at the minute, because there is a lot of promise for what this could give back to a writing community that's given me so much, which is, amazing. And the other thing that I'm working very, very hard on at the minute is the November 50K writing camp.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's we're starting to get a couple of people drip into that. It's not been fully publicly announced too widely, although I think we might have mentioned it on our last one of these kind of podcasts.
Yeah. So.
But the 50K writing camp is back. It is the boot camp that I've been running every year with a bit of a fresh lick of paint and a new name. And we have 30 spaces available. We don't anymore. We have 27 spaces available as it starts to get filled up. And yeah, I'm just very excited for it. We've got people in the Slack group already, adding their names to the sheet and starting to do their Preptober, I think the name is, for the people
Starts on Saturday.
Starts on Saturday. So for people that want to prep to write their 50,000 words in 30 days, now's pretty much the fucking time. And one final quick update on what I've got going on before we go into the explanation of what the hell is going on.
Well done.
I completed the first draft of a book that is mine for the first time in about a year and a half.
Yes, you did.
So yeah, the first draft of a book that is very, very coincidentally called 50,000 words in 30 days.
Oh my God, it's like you planned it.
I know, it's nuts. But yeah, the first draft of that is done, and I'm currently leaving it to rest a bit before I return to that. But yeah, all the things. What are you working on at the minute, Sam?
I am working on my poetry book.
Hell yeah.
Well, we've changed the name, and by we, I mean me, because I consider myself a queen, so I'm using the royal we.
Sweet.
Yeah. I'm sorry, mate. I'm tired. I'm doing my best. So I'm calling it Poetry Project in my own head, because it is a book, an audio book, a visual album, and I'll probably release the audio to the visual album as well. There's so many things, because I'm going to have to record the audio.
Sorry.
I'm going to have to record audio anyway. So yeah, I might release that, but that's by the by. So I'm currently just editing a lot of poems, some harder than others. That's kind of like, apart from being your helper.
Yeah, appreciate that.
No, it's been long enough now. You still call me a helper, so I think we should put it out to our community and get them to come up.
Give you a title.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so yeah, for context, Sam does all the behind the scenes of the podcast stuff, all the editing there. She makes all the reels and she runs the social media accounts as well. And also helps out quite diligently, is the wrong word, a lot in the Slack community and getting involved there. So you do a lot. Helper maybe doesn't sum it up. But I can't think of another, I don't know what the word is. Let's move swiftly on before this degenerates very, very quickly.
Took a breath like I had the perfect thing, and then my brain went, I don't fucking know.
All the setup, none of the delivery. But before we swing into kind of what's going on, just for people who haven't yet checked out Sam's poetry, it is delightful. No, it is incredibly well delivered, and you have a bit of an acting background as well,
Yeah,
and so that plays very much in your favor. Like your poems are quality. So what's your handle for people who want to see them?
It is at Mistress of None on the old IG. You won't find me on Twitter. Well, you might actually. I might have a Twitter account, but you won't find me on Twitter because it's a cesspool. And I keep forgetting that Facebook exists. So Instagram is where I am.
Boom.
Yeah, I keep trying TikTok, but honest to God, I'm too old, I think. I'm too old. I think Instagram is now my Facebook. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely in the Instagram nation.
Yeah.
I just prefer, like, for me it's like a visual diary. I like it, and it's very we can go deeply into that. And maybe we will in one of these episodes.
Who knows?
So to explain kind of what's going on.
Yeah. Do say, because I'm confused.
You're confused?
No, I'm not.
I was going to say. So me and Sam had a little bit of a brain wiggle, a little bit of a grey matter huggle to try and figure out, things to do going forward. And one of the things that I love, I'm just going to keep talking because Sam's in hysterics. And one of the things that I love is putting out podcast episodes and talking to people, talking to you, and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, we spoke before about the fact that we're moving some of the interview podcasts to a seasonal format.
Yeah,
that's still coming. That's in the works at the minute.
But
as part of doing this course and as part of like living this author life, I have stumbled across about 300,000 different questions that I think are quite good for us to discuss and for, to hopefully help writers along their journey, whether that's with the craft of their writing, whether that's with like the actual getting the words down, or just generally living the author life.
Yeah.
And so what we've kind of come to the conclusion of is we're going to run these as weekly episodes. And what these are is we're basically going to take a question, could be any question from a bunch of different categories to do with, being an author and writing and creativity and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then me and Sam are going to sit down for 20 minutes, half hour, however long it takes. Generally, it seems to run longer than we plan.
Yeah, I talk a lot. Sorry, mate.
And, discuss that topic. So there will be episodes coming out. It could be all over the shop. It could be anything from marketing to publishing to business to life to writing. We're just going to put our hand into the proverbial bowl and pick out a subject each week and discuss them. So that is what we're going to be doing pretty much weekly from now going forward. So if you're listening to this on the Monday that this goes live, then every Monday there will be one of these episodes. And hopefully over the next 17 years, we can cover the full spectrum of author.
Yes. I will say as well that when the seasonal interviews come, we this will go. And then when the seasonal content goes, we'll come back. I mean, we'll be on the other podcasts, obviously. Just I'm a lot to take, and I don't think anyone wants a double dose of that a week.
I could do a double dose, Sam.
Well,
to be fair, I get a lot of you during the week.
Yeah, you do.
But yeah, I also think that we sitting where we are now, we have very, very different experiences of some of this stuff. So I think one thing that you've raised a few times as we've had sort of expert panels and things in the activated authors community is like, words and terminology are thrown around that you're literally like, I don't know what the frick this means. So like, what is a book pub, for example?
Yes, I did say that. Yeah,
that was
I don't mind looking like an idiot, so I can understand stuff.
But it's perfect because it means that I can give my thoughts from where I am in my author career. You can give your thoughts from where you are in your author career, and we can kind of just mix it up and go from that. And we'll add as well, like, obviously you've got quite a comprehensive storytelling background in the sense of rising through the ranks of theatre and TV and that kind of stuff.
I mean, don't over egg the pudding.
But you're a student of story, and so I think there's a lot of scope here just to discuss. And I will also add as a caveat, I don't know if I'm going to add this caveat on every single episode, but what we say is our own viewpoint. It's not going to be a definitive be all and end all. One thing that I encourage pretty much any author or any potential author or like people early in the journey to do is listen to multiple voices. So obviously we'll have an opinion, we'll have different sides based on our experiences, but jump on over to other podcasts, see what other people are doing and check that out, because we're not we're not the definitive answer to all of these questions. It's just generally like where we're at. No one is. Yeah. No one is.
Like, yeah, that's, I would just very quickly like to add on to that, to say that like creativity is uniquely your own. So like expecting another person to have all of the answers and like the rules and stuff is folly, because number one, you know, there aren't any hard and fast rules. Yeah, there's stuff that like you might hear a lot that could be helpful, but that doesn't mean that you have to, or that is valid all of the time. So just to piggyback on what you said, I think it's really important to just like go around, because no one else's life experience can match yours perfectly. So like everything that they say is not always going to be helpful to you. So yeah, just disco around and find what works.
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah.
So before we go into today's question, and hopefully that makes sense to everyone, before we go into today's question, I do want to continue doing our pulling a win from the community, from the Activated Authors community. And this week I have two, because I think they were too good not to throw out there. The first one is one of our new members, Rob, finished the draft of his first novel.
Yes, he did.
Awesome. And we absolutely love when that happens.
Yeah. That was so cool.
Yeah, especially the first novel within the community. I mean, sometimes like, even if it's your first one, even if it's your 10th one, there's something like nice about being a part of seeing someone finish and get to the end. I love it.
Massive congrats, Rob.
Yeah. And the second one goes out to Julie Heiner, who was award nominated for her book cover in the horror suspense category at the Kindle Book Review. I don't know if they quite reached their final verdict or where that is at the minute, but even just to be nominated, because and I'll do a little plug here, because I do like, this is definitely part of it, but like, you know, a lot of the work that Julie put into this book was done during one of our masterminds, and it's fantastic to see that work paying off and helping Julie. So yeah, award nominated book cover at this point for Final Track is the name of the book, and it is a killer cover. It's really cool.
Very good, by the way. Killer cover.
Yeah. Oh, didn't even plan that. Oh, excuse me. Right, into today's question, Sam.
Hold on.
Oh.
Hold your horses there, Willcocks. Did you not want to tell me what your one key takeaway from last week is?
Oh yeah, I've already fucked it up. That's fine. Yes. Yeah, so something else we'll do is me and Sam will take one key takeaway that we've had from the last week, just to brag, I guess. No, it's not. My key takeaway for this week is but working with others is grand. Because again, like, it's annoying that I can't go too much into the details on this, but like, something I'm working on at the minute is, it's a group project essentially, and it takes very, very particular expertise from a couple of different people to make it work. And it means that I get to spend the time where I'm best served. Everyone in the project gets time to be where they're best served. And after spending 7 years working on my author career, you know, barring collaborations and things, which, you know, played a big part, a lot of what I do in terms of running my author business is solo. And so it's really refreshing not having to worry about certain chunks of what's going on, and I can just focus on the bits that, again, like, I know that I am uniquely served to do. So that's mine. Working with others, grand. How about you, Sam?
I think I'm just going to stick with what I had in my head from last week. When
we first said we were going to record this.
Yeah, and then you devastated me and let me down. That's not how it transpired. That's exactly how it transpired. My key takeaway is that I'm starting to understand myself better. Particularly when it comes to time. So I think because I feel safe currently in the community, in my house, in like my relationships, in all of the things, like I don't feel any threat. I feel safe. My brain's finally starting to kind of unfold a little bit, and I'm starting to understand things that I need, or the way that my brain works in different situations, and for this, like particularly with creativity. And so I'd been noticing a lot that when I was like calendar blocking, I was giving myself time. I was putting in like little breaks and stuff in between things. But I'd find that I was getting maybe half done if I was lucky, because I was just finding it really difficult to go from one thing to another thing. And all it takes for me is time. So, like, for example, in the mornings, usually little man will go to school, and then arguably I could just come upstairs, sit down and start working. But if I do that, I'm tired and I'm lethargic and I'm irritable and I can't focus on what I'm doing. So what I do is what I started to do is I sit down and I'll do something like mind numbing. So I don't know, like play Angry Birds or look on Instagram. And my brain starts to get angry with me. It's like, you should be working. And it gets to a tipping point, and then I'm like, right. And then I sit down and then I can smash stuff out. And I've been doing that this week, which I think is why I've been getting stuff done, is that I'm listening to myself. I'm starting to understand pieces of my process. So for me, my key takeaway is that I just need time. So if you could have a little patience.
That's huge, Joe, because like it's very hard beginning a workday in a state of failure or perceived failure. And so, as you say, like allowing yourself for what you know you need, rather than thinking I'm failing against someone else's standards, is conducive to actually getting shit done.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
huge step forward.
About that. Right, hit me with a question.
You're gonna hit me with a question, Sam.
Oh yeah, I'll hit you with a question.
So that question for this week is
killing it. What is story?
Let's start off with the big question. I think it's an appropriate question as well, because all of us, I imagine, as activated authors, are wanting to write story, wanting to tell story, wanting to, what's the word? Speak journey. But like, I've been thinking a lot about this the last couple of weeks, just because, again, of things I'm working on. But in its most simplest form, story is just a retelling of events. Fictional or non-fictional. It's designed to give information or entertainment. It could do both. I mean, if you look at things like, obviously, non-fiction will give you a lot of information, but it also, the best non-fiction, in my experience, also takes you on a journey. And one thing that I'd love to get across to people is, like, if you're listening to this and you're very, very early on in your journey, even to the point that you're like, I might just listen to this podcast, I don't know if I'll ever write something because I don't know that I've got a story to tell. Like, I genuinely believe down to the marrow of my bones that, every human is a storyteller in some capacity. Like, some of us choose to hone that craft. But if you look at, the evolution of humanity, and even going back to sort of 40,000 years ago, there were cave paintings on the walls of people telling their story. Like, what is the reason that humans were compelled to take blood and inks or whatever it was that they used to paint stuff on the wall, to be like, we have something to say, we want this to, like, send a message? Like, could it have been a warning? Could it have been just, diary entries? Depends. And just going on from that, like, it's part of our evolution as humans to tell stories to each other in order to survive. Like, we had to tell people the story of, like, the lions out here or the bears out here or whatever it is. And all through history, there's storytellers in humanity that just go village to village and just spread the gospel of, what the king is doing, what the queen has done, all that kind of stuff. And even coming into, the modern world, the contemporary world, telling a story, like, every time you send a text, you're telling a story in some capacity. Like, how are you? I'm fine. That's a story. It's telling something about yourself that the other person didn't know. It's informing them. Like, sometimes you can be stupid, like I am often, and make that a very entertaining experience. But there are multiple times in your day in which you're telling stories to people, like, whether that's something that happened to you at the shops, whether it's like a relative that's pissed you off, or like a great news that you received from someone. Like, let's just lay the foundation. The story is absolutely everywhere. Another example, marketing is a story. Every advert you watch is a story. Every TV show is a story. Books are stories. Like, I'll beat that drum, because for anyone that tells me they're not a storyteller, I don't believe you. So for me, that is story. Story is a regaling of events designed to inform or to entertain. I'll put a pause on it there because I have more, but I'll be interested to know where you'd like to go with what is story to you.
So I agree with basically everything. Well, not basically, I agree with everything you just said. When someone says I agree with basically
Everything,
it means
like
I've got a couple of things
of it.
that I'm gonna. Yeah, no, I agree with everything you just said. I was nodding emphatically with a smile on my face. For me, story is everything. And I mean everything. Story is power. Story is love and hate and grief and sex and money, and there is nothing like, if you, wherever you're like listening or watching, if you look around in the room or on the bus or in your office, whatever, there is nothing you can see that you cannot like touch that doesn't have a story to it. Every component of everything has a story to how that component came to be. Every person that touched it has their own story. Like thousands of stories have like been delivered to you, and you think it's like, I don't know, like a water bottle or something. But story is everything. Story is everywhere. Like wars are fought over stories. Like people are killed, people are birthed. Like it is what separates us from other animals, is our ability to tell story. Like I honestly think there is nothing in this world that isn't story. It is everywhere, and it doesn't have to be written, it doesn't have to be spoken, it can be danced. Like you can notice something. I mean, how many times have you been walking down the street and like, I don't know, you see a cloud and in your head you're like, oh, that looks like a so-and-so, and then that takes you to something else and your brain is making a story. That's what we do. That's how
I just pictured myself walking along looking up at a cloud.
See?
Story.
Yeah, it's, you know, it is everywhere. It is how we have survived this long. And like you say, before language, before like spoken language, humans found a way to tell story. It is vital, and it is everywhere, and it is everything, in my humble opinion.
It's really interesting to kind of try to understand what compelled people to first paint on the walls and to start telling those stories, because it's part of humanity, but it's also probably singularly the thing that has allowed us to evolve as humans, and to get as far as we have. Because if you look at, you know, I can't remember where it was I came across this information. Someone told me a story, but like before we were able to write anything down, story and information was passed through genetics, which is, you know, what obviously evolution is. And evolution can take hundreds of thousands of years to go, okay, I need to be a different color so I don't get eaten.
Yes.
Whereas if you then take away the pressure from being in our biology, our genetics, and put it down on paper, you can pass that paper to your next of kin, and then they will have that knowledge, and that knowledge accrues and it grows, and then we suddenly have libraries, and then, you know, the internet is born, and we suddenly have a massive information. We won't go into misinformation because that's a whole different thing.
No, but that like, is a fucking story too.
Yeah, but it's you know, the progressive nature of what has allowed us to do things, and imagination buys into that, and it's wonderful. And one thing I did want to add on to what we both said so far as well is that one of the magic things about any kind of story, any kind of item, is that any story that you tell is uniquely yours. Like you could look at an item, like me and you could go to a shop and purchase an item together, and we will have an entirely different story for what that means and how that came to be.
Yeah.
Just because of the nature of being an individual, which I think is something that is missed massively from new writers. And I think it is one of the big things of imposter syndrome, because you know, we've had conversations with people recently about imposter syndrome and originality and cliche and all that kind of stuff. But I still attest, you could try to write the Titanic and you will come up with a completely different version of it. It will have different feeling, the characters will feel different, like the location, everything, it will just feel like a different story. And that's because we all have that unique voice inside us. We all have our own lens, our own kaleidoscope of experiences that allows us to tell stories in different ways and to put different emotion into it. Like I could go to a rodeo and not enjoy it. Someone could accompany to a rodeo and fucking love it. Like it's the same damn event.
Yeah.
And it's yielding entirely different experiences. So adding everything has its own unique voice. And I think that is something that's also very alluring and powerful.
Yeah. You said something to me the other day, and I can't remember like the exact wording, but you basically, as we were having a discussion around this kind of topic, and you were saying that first of all, the thing that new writers would do good to understand is that there is no such thing as originality. And then within that, you find your originality. There is no new, like there are no new stories, but there's so many new stories.
Yeah. Which kind of, I guess, goes into an additional question, which is, establishing that everything is story and story is around us and story is life and story is human. What makes a good story?
Well, first of all, I think we should acknowledge that if we are talking here about story as in, so do you mean novels and films and media story, or are you talking about like Bob in accounting as well?
Let's go everything.
Okay. So what makes a good story is just holding interest. Like it needs to be understanding of who the story is being delivered to. I would tell you a story about something that happened with Miles very differently to how I would tell, I know, my mum or his dad or a teacher. I'm not gonna like rock up to his school and be like, you never guess what this fucking little shitbag did. But to you, probably would say that. So it's understanding who is the story for. And that's an interesting way of saying I think it's about delivering it in a way that is most effective for that person to digest, to understand, to comprehend. And then a good storyteller is someone that can impart their own flair, their own spin, their own way of telling things. Like I think we can probably all think of an example of someone in our lives that when they open their mouths to tell a story, everyone's like, shut the fuck up. Go on. Renee, I'm looking at you. Right? Like every time that woman says, I have a story about this, literally everyone in the Zoom room is like, so we'll all be quiet now because this is going to be incredible.
Everyone cross-legged on the floor. Come on.
Yeah. And then we can also think of that person that's like, and just the second they start talking, you're like, oh God, I'd rather shoot myself dead. Okay, here we go. And it's about like tone and pace and content, understanding who it's for. And that's universal. That's not just for like drama and books and radio drama and all that stuff. Like, yeah. What makes a good story, Dan?
Yeah, no, I think you caught like a lot of the key elements that I would have covered. I think one thing that new writers do, which isn't a bad thing, I've spoken about this before, is they'll write the book that they want to read. They'll write what I call the heart book because they've had this story burning inside them and they want to tell this story. And why do they want to tell this story? Because they want to have this story out there. And rightly or wrongly, they don't necessarily consider who that story could be for, which then causes problems when it comes to trying to market that book. And I know I've been on the other side of that. I've got like a couple of early books that either I didn't put out because I didn't know who they were for at the end of the day, or I put them out to the wrong audience. And so what you're talking about there is knowing your audience and doing research into your story. And this is all stuff that we'll tackle in later questions. I've no doubt. So we won't go too deeply into all this other stuff, but just that broader concept of knowing that you're delivering it to someone and delivering it for them, because the way that different people receive stories is, as you say, vastly different. So again, just to beat that drum, I would tell you a story very differently to how I would tell like my mom or my dad or someone in my family for reasons that I know you in different ways, and I know you respond to different things. And then within that, one thing that our good friend Jay Thorne, who was our last week's guest, dived into very deeply in his book 3 Story Method is the rule of 3 when it comes to your story. Like a good story has a beginning, it has a middle, and it has an end. And the only reason this is very much on my mind at the minute is because I've deep dived into a lot of this the last few weeks. But like, if you look at the beginning, middle, and the end, or arguably act 1, 2, or 3, you have your setup, what you're talking about, how do you like hook that person in. You have your confrontation, or like your point of friction, your rising action, whatever you want to call it, in which you kind of tell the story and tell all the obstacles and kind of really build up to that final part where at the end you like bring it to a resolve. You resolve whatever that story is and bring it to a close in a satisfying way. So like often it's the punchline of the joke that you save until that last moment to make the rest of the delivery work. And whether it's you trying to tell like a riveting story at a dinner party, or whether you're trying to tell a series of 18 novels, like universally you're doing the same things, just on different scales.
You just gave me a memory there, and apologies by the way to anyone who heard that on the podcast. I have to set alarms to remind me to do basically everything in my life. Thank you, trauma. And that was my phone telling me it's time for snack 2, but unfortunately my body will have to wait because I'm doing this.
Because you're on helper work.
Huh?
You're on helper work.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on helper work. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that.
We'll put that poll in the Slack.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
And so help me God, if anyone says helper, just know that I have your addresses. You reminded me of I think a memory came to me, and I'm pretty sure it's the first time I understood beginning, middle, and end. So I was much too young, and Scream was on. I was with my dad. We were sat in the living room. I think there were some other people, like my sisters and things. And I remember when it opened, all the colours were vivid, like the music was fun, like bustle, all this kind of stuff. And then as it got into like the inciting incident and then the rest of it, the colours weren't bright anymore. And there wasn't that fun music, and there wasn't all of this. And then I remember being sat there and being terrified to watch, but also being scared to leave because I didn't know what that would mean. And I just remember the moment at the end when the colour came back. And I was like, oh, I can breathe out now. Okay, it's over. Like, and the music was back, and I'm just thinking of it now, and I think that's the first time I understood, because since then, like, I'll often think to myself, like, I'll be watching something and I'll notice the colours like turn up or something. I'm like, okay, like we've got the resolution. This is kind of, like we're just having that quiet moment at the end.
Some films do it with the aspect ratio as well.
Yes.
Where it like shrinks down and then grows up again to kind of like go into the action and then out. But yeah, as I say, like broadly speaking, I think a good story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it's built and catered towards a particular audience so that you can deliver it. And that's kind of at its most basic core components. To me, what a good story is. And as we say, like the other thing that I kind of want to touch on as well is, as we were saying earlier, like with story being absolutely everywhere, with the fact that we text stories to our friends and our family on a daily basis, and we see it on the news and all this other stuff, it goes to show the pull that you have for inspiration. So the ideas, it can be drawn from anything. And personally, for me, one thing that I love in stories is when you can take something really basic and just like hold it on a real human level. The best stories for me are ones that really like pluck at my raw emotion of what it is to be human and things I can feel on a real visceral level. Like one thing that I know that you're going to empathize with as well and nod along to is no pressure, make sure you nod, is I used to be able to watch films and TV shows and read books about parents losing children and children tensing to kids, and I would be fine. And now I can't watch an advert in which a kid trips over its own shoe where I don't cry a little bit or feel that raw emotion because of my experience as a parent. Like, it's so stark how it happens that it blows my mind away. It just does. I've
still never watched episode 3, season 1 of House for this very reason.
Oh, I have no idea what that means, but
there's lots of babies get sick. And basically like, we can only save so many of them, and I was like, and I'm out because I can't take this on a human level.
Oh geez, yeah. But yeah, just that is like a pure example of like how your own experiences can help you connect or disconnect with a story in that way. So yeah, there's inspiration all around you, connect on an emotional level, beginning, middle and end. Stories are everywhere. That is our answer, I guess, this week to bring us to the conclusion of what is story. Anything else to add on that, Sam?
I mean, I don't think so. Not without kind of like, because it's such a big question, but also I do think the answer is as simple as story is everything: life, death, blood, everything.
Yeah.
But
you go.
You sure? Yes, you're going to be great. Like, obviously, there's if you kind of dive deep into what is a story when you're talking about books, then obviously there's lots of different kind of opinions and there's tropes and genres and and all of that stuff. But I think for this particular episode, I think I'm happy with what I've said. I agree with what you've said, mostly because it was of the same opinion that I had. So I'm okay with it. But I'm good. I think that's good.
I didn't prep you for this, but
great. Here we go again.
Do you have any recommendations or resources that have helped you understand story throughout your life that spring to mind? If not, we can just pop them in the show notes afterwards.
I think so. When I first started to look at story, as in to write story, because I have bought so many different like craft books and structure books and all that kind of thing, but I've done that classic person thing of just because I've bought them, I then like think that the knowledge is going to be imparted in me, and it doesn't. You do have to read them and take notes and stuff.
Books could be done through osmosis.
Oh mate,
if you just sat in like water next to some potatoes and just soaked in story.
just walk into the library like but I think in that regard, there's a book by, oh my god, there's too many. I know too many people called Randy. 1 second.
How do you know so many people called Randy? I can tell you one person called Randy Newman.
Yeah, exactly.
One. There you go.
But and also there's someone called Randy Spendlove in the film industry, because whenever I see their name, it makes me so fucking happy. And I was like, no, it's not that. So it's Randy Ingemanson. Ingemanson? There we go. And I'll put the spelling.
Wow, it is Ingemanson.
Yeah.
Ingemanson.
And it's called the Snowflake Method. And that was very helpful to me because it breaks it down very simply. It is kind of more aimed generally at trad, I would say, but like not so specifically that it isn't helpful. So like in a very kind of, this is a resource that, but do you know what? I think the first time I kind of started to properly understand structure without understanding that's what I was understanding, was looking at Shakespeare at school.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's very creepy is I could just see a dog paw stretching at the side, and it was, I thought a stick had just grown sentient.
Oh my no, a loaf of loaf, a loaf of bread Yeah, no, it's funny because I just look at the screen but he is currently lounging on the bed like a lady of leisure.
Fair.
Although, at least you're not on your back with your legs apart, because that's often the sleep position.
Apologies, Shakespeare.
Yes. Just because I'm pretty sure all of his plays are in 5 acts, and like one could argue that they're 3 acts, but like they're acts because obviously it's a theatrical device. But they all follow a very similar kind of, this is where we are, this is what's just happened, what are we going to do about what's happening? Like, oh shit, something worse has happened, and now we've figured it out and it's okay, or it's not okay. Like, it all kind of follows that. And I'm so sorry, I'm sorry, Bill, if you're turning in your grave, but story when you strip everything away. But I mean, generally, you could look at anything and figure it out, because it is repeated so much. Specifically as well for TV, I would say any kind of procedural cop show is a great way.
Formula.
Yeah, because it's basically always the same. So we open, someone's about to get killed, or a crime is going to happen, and then it happens, and then it's like titles, and then the body's found. I mean, we normally see a little bit of like talkie with the police officers. Body's found, the investigation starts. Depending on the severity of the crime, there could be like a subplot with one of the detectives as to how it's affecting them. But usually it's a case of, okay, let's find the nearest and dearest. And then we know who it is, but then it turns out, oh, it's not that person. It was this person all along. And they play, and it is very formulaic, but it is a great way to see structure.
Yeah.
And also see how a spin on something can keep something that is essentially the same thing fresh. Like watch Elementary. That's a fantastic example.
It is very good.
Yeah. Of a repetitive thing that's kept fresh. What about you?
Yeah, so I think I'll kind of add a very similar caveat in the sense of I'll recommend 3 resources that I've found useful throughout my journey. They're not ones that I explicitly use now, but I've taken kind of the universal message of what they are to help me in my own process.
Yeah.
As we kind of said at the top of this episode, like, find your own path. These are frameworks that can help you understand story. Behave.
Sorry, Joe Lycett. Yeah. Yeah.
They are frameworks. They basically all teach the same thing in slightly different ways, which is kind of why we started with this question, just to show the universality of what story is. But the big ones that have kind of helped me a lot were Save the Cat by Blake Snyder. I got a lot from Shawn Coyne's Story Grid, particularly the podcast when it was running sort of a fair few years back. He was doing some stuff with
That's still up? Is that still up? Can people go still listen to it? Like, I believe
so. He was doing some stuff with, I forget the guy's name, Tim. Was it Tim someone? He was basically taking through the story grid method to help with his book and kind of breaking it down each episode and kind of learning about, even within scenes themselves, having the beginning, the middle, and the end, like adding hooks and conflicts and all that kind of stuff. And the other one is kind of already mentioned, the 3-story method by Jay Thorne and Zach Bohannon is a fantastic resource at looking at, that overall, rule of 3s and how that has applied universally to stories for years. So those are 3 off the top of my head. If I can think of any more, I'll shoot them over to my helper to put in the show notes.
I think about the show notes though is that you never check them.
Yeah, I know that.
I do know that. You're a very busy man. You don't have time to check them.
If you start putting like random messages in the show notes, telling your own little story over the next 17 episodes.
Yeah.
I have to watch that. But the other thing I would say is, bringing it back, is start deliberately watching things. Start deliberately thinking about this as you're reading, as you're going through stuff, because you'll start to see it as things go on. yeah, I kind of want to go deeper, but I'm gonna leave it there because we can certainly save that for like another episode at that point.
Yeah, I would say, just one more thing. I completely agree with like deliberately watching, deliberately reading, all that kind of stuff. Just don't do it with everything.
Oh no.
Because it's going to happen to you either way. There will come a time where you cannot read or watch a story without seeing a little bit of how it's done. It can knock the shine off a bit. So like save yourself a little bit of anguish and maybe don't like start with your favorite show.
Yeah.
Or like your favorite book of all time.
I will say this is one of the tests of whether a story to me now is good or not, is whether or not it can outpace my thoughts. So like watching The Sandman recently, and I was 100% convinced that an episode was going to do something, and they did something entirely different, and I was like, yes, like I enjoy it. I like finding those moments is difficult once you've been in this business for a while.
Thanks, Gaiman.
And whoever's directing the TV show.
No, just Gaiman.
We'll start. So we'll bring that topic to a close. But what I will say before we wrap up is that the 50K writing camp is officially open for business. So we are taking in new members. As I say, we've got 27 spots remaining at this point. Our first official 50K meeting is, I believe, on the 26th of October, which is Wednesday before November begins, in which we kind of do a welcome with everyone. So, it's better to sign up before then.
Yeah.
But if you want to get involved in the writing camp and find out all that's going on over there, go to activators.com/50K to find out more and to grab your place before it's gone.
It's activatedauthors.com/50K. You said
activators.co.uk.
You said, I don't, well, you might have said, I don't know, but you said activators.
Activatedauthors.com/50K. And yeah, I've not even said what's in the writing camp. Within the writing camp, you'll get access to lots and lots and lots of weekly sprints where you can get your words in. You'll get thrown into the Activated Authors community and you can take advantage of everything we've got going on over there and meet all the cool guys.
Online word tracker.
The online word tracker as well, so you can actually see where you're at against other people and keep yourself on track. We have a social at the end of it all. You can ask questions. Daily inspiration straight to your phone or to your computer, however you want to do it. You can ask myself questions in any of the Zoom sprints and I will buoy you along. And
1 month free of Activated Authors, new for 2023. Who did the ads for this, Dan?
That was you, mate.
Yeah, that's why I've got it all in my head. I've said it so many times. I've typed it so many times.
It's always go. And the one thing that we will add as well, that I know we've mentioned on a few episodes, but again, is if this is your first episode, the international average completion rate of a NaNoWriMo enterer is 15%. In the last 2 years, we have managed to get 80% of our authors across that finish line. So if you want to maximize your chances of getting that first draft done, activatedauthors.com/50K.
Yeah.
Anything else, Sam?
I don't believe so. I believe I'm good. I'm done.
Boom. Well then, there's nothing left to say, but a massive thank you to you, the listeners, for tuning in. We appreciate you and the time you choose to spend with us each and every week, as it is now. And as always, if you're looking to level up your writing and activate your author career, head on over to activatedauthors.com to find out all about our community, our resources, and everything else that we've got going on. From myself and from Sam, goodbye, and we will see you next week.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Activate your energy.